Hi, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our iPass Q2 product update today. Today we're going to be talking about all the great stuff that we're releasing in or have released in Q2 and some of the stuff that we're going to be releasing over the next couple of weeks leading up to the end of Q2. My name is Neil Griffiths. I look after product marketing at iPass, and I'm going to be taking us through this session today. Just one item of housekeeping. We welcome any questions that you may have at any time during this session. If you have any questions that you'd like to post, please just go ahead in the chat window. I have a couple of folks helping me on the call, Tom and Jenny. They will curate the questions and make sure that I answer them before the end of the session. So please go ahead and ask any questions that you may have on anything that we're going to talk about today. All right, so what are we going to be talking about today? So we'll just cover the introduction. We're going to change the order of how we're doing this update today. Previously, what we've done is we talked a little bit about iPass and then talked about the stuff we're delivering. In view of the fact that we kind of generally invite to this session folks who are already existing customers who are really kind of looking for the kind of meat of this thing to understand, the good stuff that we're bringing out. We thought we'd change the order a little bit and actually go with the stuff that we're delivering first. And then, for the folks that don't know much about iPass, we'll do a little bit about iPass towards the end of the session, and then we'll kick it open for Q&A a bit later on in the session. So what are we going to talk about in terms of focus items for Q2? So we're going to give you a tiny update on network coverage, but not too much, and I'll explain why that is in a second. And then we're going to talk about our newly launched developer portal. We're going to talk about some new options around our software development kit, which should be very interesting for any partners or folks that want to integrate iPass into their applications that we may have on the call. We're going to talk about location services, APIs, and SDK, which is really an enabler for integration of iPass into partner solutions. And then we're going to talk about a new product that we've been rolling out during Q2 called Verify, which we're very excited about, which is our kind of big data and analytics product set. And we've been galloping along at quite a pace with this stuff over the past quarter or so. I think you'll be impressed by some of the stuff that we're actually bringing to market. And then we're going to touch, lastly, on some kind of general service improvements, the kind of nitty-gritty around client changes and tweaks and enhancements that we're actually doing to the service, which is going to make the service more usable for all our users, whether they're using the iPass standard client or they're integrating via our SDK solutions. Okay, so let's dive in. Let's talk about network coverage. Now, my colleague Steve Dam is actually going to be doing next week an update on our network coverage, where he's going to go into a lot more detail around recent areas of improvement in terms of coverage. He's going to be talking a lot about in-flight enhancements and what we're doing around in-flight. What I'm going to talk about is just really a high-level summary. The summary is all good. We're actually increasing our footprint really very rapidly. So we're up to over 61 million hotspots as of today. I think last quarter we reported about 60 million. It was actually a little bit over 60 million last quarter, and it's just a little bit over, as you'll see in a subsequent slide, a little bit over 61 million as of yesterday, covering 120 countries. To enable this, we're working with about 200 different vendors globally, and Steve will talk at length about this next week. And we're in the process of onboarding some really key suppliers, including United Airlines, whose aircraft we expect to start onboarding into our coverage around about July this year. Steve will cover this in a bit more detail next week, but that's going to be a fairly slow rollout just because of the nature of onboarding aircraft. Means that the aircraft has to be rolled through maintenance to get a software upgrade to be able to support the new functionality. But Steve will share more info with you next week about that key component of our footprint expansion. So yeah, we just touched on in-flight. So in-flight is really, really key for iPass. It's generating a tremendous amount of interest within the enterprise and within our partner ecosystem. We look at it as one of the key drivers to the growth of iPass, which is why we're putting a lot of focus into our in-flight partnerships, including United and GoGo and Panasonic and all those guys. we've got around about 1,400 aircraft that we've added since Q1 2016. With Viasat and Tails, we're going to be, adding probably, another 750 by the end of August 2017. So a lot of expansion and in-flight, a lot of demand from our enterprises. Interestingly enough, some of our enterprise customers and also some of our partner customers are expressing that, the main reason that they want iPass is for in-flight coverage, and we're happy to accommodate that. In-flight coverage is expanding kind of globally. We're onboarding United, but we're also onboarding key airline partners and key infrastructure providers for those airline partners around the world. One thing that we're also working on as well is we're kind of trying to fill in the holes. We're working with a lot of airport operators as well to actually improve coverage within airports, and we're working very closely with those organizations to make sure that the connectivity experience is really seamless. And we're also working with those guys around some of our verifying big data and kind of analytics initiatives, and we'll talk a little bit about that later on, because that's some quite interesting stuff that we're up to with that community. So hotspots by region, I said we're just over 61 million, so you can see that number on the far right here. Very interesting spread of hotspots here. Obviously, you can see that the bulk of coverage is centered on Europe and the Americas, although we have a lot of focus on Asia in particular right now. So we're doing a lot of work in India and a lot of work in Singapore to improve coverage in those regions based on the increasing kind of user adoption that we're seeing within those territories, and also some key partners and customers that we're actually onboarding within those territories. So we're kind of following along with enhanced coverage and footprint in those areas to support the initiatives of our partners. Moving on. So that was a very brief update on the network footprint. So let's move on and talk about our developer portal. So developers and developers are kind of really another aspect that's really key to the ongoing growth of iPass. We see tremendous demand coming in from developers or the developer community, both within both driven by our larger kind of MNO customers, but we're also seeing tremendous growth from MVNO customers who want to integrate iPass as a solution for their users to solve issues around roaming MVNO users, or also to do margin improvement for their services when they're operating within territory. We're also starting to see an emerging trend around developers for kind of completely separate kind of third-party apps that are nothing to do with a network operator type solution coming to us to want to integrate iPass. And there's some interesting stuff we're doing with people in the kind of music and video streaming industries, where they want to integrate iPass and Wi-Fi connectivity into their solutions to reduce the impact of data usage of their solutions on their users' bills. They kind of want to take that off the table as an issue for their users. So we have a very broad community of developers that are actually coming to us to want to integrate iPass into their solutions to solve a variety of problems. So over the past few months, we've been working really hard to build a developer portal, which is designed to address two issues. One, it's designed to act as a storefront, so that if somebody wants to integrate iPass at whatever level of sophistication, they can come to this developer portal and understand what the options are to actually integrate iPass. And then once they decide to go down a particular road and they engage with us to build a particular solution, this portal can also serve as the kind of gateway for them to get all the information they need around all the software code and libraries and assets and how-to guides and basically everything that you need to do to integrate iPass based on which kind of solution track for integration that they actually follow. And I'll talk a little bit later on about all the different options we've got around integration. Those are kind of broadening out very quickly based on the very broad community of developers that we're currently nurturing. So the current integration options are kind of SDK based, location services, API, and SDK. We'll talk about what these mean in a little while. There's a new option that's going to be available within the developer portal quite soon, and that's white label. And I'll touch on what that is and what that means a little bit later on in this presentation, because it's part of the kind of enhancements that we're rolling out during Q2. And then in the future, you're going to see a lot of the kind of documentation and how-tos for our API-based integrations that are kind of, to be candid, a little bit kind of scattered around other sites within iPass right now. These are all going to be kind of driven to the developer portal, so there's going to be one central location for all the information for a developer. And in the future, we're also going to integrate Verify, our big data product, into the developer portal, so that the developers that are developing big data and analytics solution can come and get all the resources that they need from the developer portal. And the idea here is to drive, broad engagement across a whole different community of developers. And we want the developer portal to be a place where developers can come and share ideas and best practices with other developers and kind of help each other out. The more successful developer communities that I've seen are very much along those lines, where it is a true community and people are kind of helping each other out and sharing tips and tricks and best practices. So, what does it actually look like? Well, it looks like a developer portal. When you kind of come to the site, and this is currently linked, actually linked from our homepage right now, so you can actually get to it. I'll show you the link in a second if you actually want to go to this directly. Right now, this is a kind of storefront, and because most of our integration options are really around servicing MVNOs and MNOs, there's a little piece around, okay, these are the kind of benefits that you can realize if you're an MNO or an MVNO and you're seeking to integrate iPass. This kind of portfolio of things that we can do is going to be expanded over the next couple of months to include, over-the-top application providers, big data and analytics companies, and all the different communities that we want to address. So this is a kind of storefront aspect of the developer portal. Once you've actually logged in as a developer, then all the information that you could possibly want to be able to integrate our solution is actually held within here, and it's constantly updated. We're actually literally updating the content in here every week with new stuff, so it's very dynamic and very active. In fact, we're just about to drop 150 new pages of content into this actual screen, and that's going to be coming along within the next 10 days, well, actually probably more like 7 days, and that's a kind of complete step-by-step how-to guide on how to integrate iPass, the iPass software development kit into your solution. Yeah, so everything's in here that a developer needs. It looks a little bit bare bones right now if you go and take a look at it. We have big plans throughout the rest of this year to expand this tool to include chat boards and proactive outreach and posting videos and how-tos and a whole pile of content in here. It is really a key focus for iPass. This whole notion of trying to build a broad developer ecosystem to further integrate iPass into all these cool new applications. All right, so we touched on very briefly our white label integration option. This is something that we're rolling out in response to customer demand. We've had quite a few customers and prospects come to us and look at our software SDK and go, well, this is great, and if we want a super rich solution that's really tightly coupled and integrated into our existing app, this is great, this is perfect. But it's going to take us a little while to get there, and there's some development effort required, and perhaps at least in the interim for our short-term release plans, we don't need all the kind of bells and whistles. Is there something you can do for us now that kind of looks like that we can brand as our solution that allows us to get to market quickly? And then we'll perhaps follow on with a deeper integration with your full software development kit. So over the next few weeks, you'll see some announcements from us around a white label option for iPass, and this essentially allows you to take the existing iPass client and user experience and skin it to your branding preferences. And the level of skinning and customization is actually very, very high. The amount that you'll be able to do in terms of, and it's probably beyond the term skinning. It's more like we're giving the user interface libraries and then we're allowing you to add all your own icons and kind of look and feel and branding and kind of whatever you want to do. It even kind of change the size and shape of the client and do a whole pile of other things. So it probably goes beyond the classical definition of a white label. It's more, it's closer to a fully customizable client that you can kind of do what you like with. What we're also doing as well, because a lot of the customers that have come to us wanting this option want to get to market quickly, and they're quite often in the space, the kind of loyalty space, and kind of, you know, they want to onboard, you know, hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of users really, really quickly. They've come to us looking for an option where they can do lightweight authentication and activation that doesn't need any other web pages. You know, somebody can just download an app from an app store and authenticate and activate based on their account information live within the app without having to bail out to go to another web page or another portal. So that's actually part of this white label initiative, is also tweaking the client a little bit to make that option available for users to allow them to authenticate actually within the app themselves. So you can now have a self-contained iPass app that you can pull from an app store and sign up and activate from within the app. We're also providing a customizable onboarding page for customers that really want that, and that's hosted on iPass. But it can have all the customer's own branding against it, and it can have obviously have a URL that reflects the customer's own domain name and everything else, and that can just point to the underlying iPass page. But we're offering full customization for that page as well. So if you really want an onboarding landing page on a classic website, we can make that available. One of the other things that we're doing to really speed time to market for this white label solution is publishing on behalf of people that choose to go down this road. You know, one of the things that trips people up sometimes is, you know, they'll build an iOS and an Android app, and especially if it's the kind of first foray into this space, they don't quite realize the pitfalls associated with them publishing the app and getting the app approved within the respective, you know, Play stores and iTunes stores, and that can be a little bit of a protracted process. We are offering to publish on behalf of customers for these white label options, which will definitely potentially shave quite a few weeks off the go-to-market process for an iPass, for a white labeled iPass solution. So in terms of more details for the white label option, that will be popping up on the developer portal over the next few weeks. We're just figuring out what that information needs to look like and how we want to brand it and what we want to call it. That's always the hardest thing to figure out. So that information will pop up on the developer portal over the next few weeks. So keep an eye open for that. And that's a conscious decision about socializing this stuff on the developer portal, because we want people to go and keep checking in on the developer portal to see what cool stuff we're actually launching. So that's the white label integration option. A great solution for people that want to have their own branded Wi-Fi connectivity service, but want to get to market quickly and perhaps don't want to, or perhaps either don't have the resources or don't want to invest in the resources to develop or integrate into an existing app. All right, so moving forward, let's talk about Verify. This is a new initiative for this quarter. You know, one of the things that we at iPass have figured out is that, you know, as part of operationalizing Wi-Fi, and I won't go into all I won't go into a lot of detail about how iPass actually operationalizes Wi-Fi and how we curate footprint and how we determine where hotspots are. The net is that we've realized that we're sitting on an enormous pile of data that we believe is very useful for people that are actually operating Wi-Fi networks, in order for them to consume that data to actually understand kind of user behavior and optimize the user experience. So we're bringing to market a new suite of products called Verify, which is designed to do exactly that, and that's make available data that we collect to improve and better operationalize Wi-Fi connectivity and a Wi-Fi service. What we're also seeing as well is that some of the operators of Wi-Fi services, and this is especially the case in the MVNO world, they're looking to do some pretty advanced and innovative stuff around using potentially things like in-app advertising and other ways to touch users with either offers from their own brand or their own organization, or potentially open up their users as a user base for affiliate brands to come into market to those particular users. And they're looking at that as a potential model to subsidize their Wi-Fi offering to their users and allow them to reach more and more users by reducing the cost of providing that service. But the main focus right now is operators and using this data to actually understand device behavior and user behavior, and I'll show you what that means in a second. So right now we have kind of three kind of broad Verify products that we're kind of bringing to market. We have the Verify Analytics KPI dashboard. I'll show you that in a second. And then we have our hotspot data libraries and our device data libraries, and I'll talk about what those are in a second. But broadly, we see that all of this stuff can be consumed by kind of 5 different communities in kind of different ways to achieve different things. And I won't go into all the use cases because we'll probably be doing subsequent webinars around Verify over the next few months. But there's some really interesting apps around optimizing Wi-Fi versus cellular usage and emergency responder type apps. There's just a ton of really interesting stuff you can do with this data that we're finding people are coming to us and actually saying, okay, if I can get a hold of this data, I can do this really cool thing for my users. So we're trying to make this data available to our customers and partners. So what does the KPI dashboard mean? Well, it's something that we've really been investing a lot of time in over Q2, and it's really, right now, it's kind of targeted and optimized for our bigger M&O customers, so our big telco carriers. And what they want to understand is, when they activate Wi-Fi for a community of users, how are they using it? How and where are they using it? When are they using it in preference to Wi-Fi versus cellular? Can they control or encourage behavior in one direction or another? And overall, are they extracting the value from offering Wi-Fi that they expected to? And in the main for an M&O, what they're trying to do with adding Wi-Fi to their solution is to do a couple of things. One is to avoid CapEx spend, because the gearing in terms of CapEx for a large M&O is enormous. It's billions and billions of dollars in infrastructure that they're deploying, and if they can defer or deflect some of that, that's a huge benefit to those organizations. Also, they're looking to optimize user experience because studies have shown that 2 weeks of a cruddy user experience and people are starting to churn away pretty quickly. So what they really want to understand is adding Wi-Fi to this to their solution improving or reducing the quality of user experience. So we built this very cool platform that allows them to measure all of this stuff, exactly how users are connecting, where they're connecting, how much time they're spending on Wi-Fi, how much data they're moving between Wi-Fi and cellular, and we're crunching, we're crunching potentially tens of millions of device records here overnight. We're presenting this back on a daily basis to people that want to take this tool. So this kind of broadly is kind of what it looks like. So these 2 heat maps kind of show where users are connecting on Wi-Fi on the left, and then on the right is equal as important is how and where users are disconnecting and for what reason on a particular geographical area. So we can provide these very high-level kind of heat map representations of what's going on, but then you can kind of drill down into let's look at connectivity performance across the entire network. How is the entire network performing? And then can we look at an individual device or group of devices and how they're performing against a specific network? So we can say, okay, look at how are users connecting to free and open hotspots, or how are they connecting to iPass paid hotspots, or how are they connecting to in-flight coverage and footprint? And what are the what's the connectivity performance there? What's the how long is it taking to connect? What's the success rate? And then what's the user experience in terms of throughput and connectivity once the user is actually connecting. So, if a wealth of data here, if you're operating a Wi-Fi network, just a ton of data that's actionable, that actually allows you to change either your coverage footprints or who you're working with, or ultimately to potentially push push changes to your users' devices to encourage them or discourage them, either at a user level or at a client level, to actually connect to Wi-Fi or not to connect to Wi-Fi in specific areas. So some really great kind of actionable intelligence here around perceived user performance of the network. And this is an interesting chart here. So this is a dashboard of speed tests, and we're constantly running. Our client and our SDK is constantly kind of running speed tests in the background against our infrastructure for every hotspot that we connect to, and we also do it over the cellular bearer as well. And all that data is actually scooped up and is made available in this dashboard, so that you can understand what the performance as perceived by the user is, because that's the most important metric for each user or group of users wherever they are on your network. So that's the speed test dashboard. Everything that you can see, and there's just a ton of different charts and graphs and heat maps and stuff. We probably need to do a whole other webinar on this dashboard, and it's constantly being expanded as well. And all of the stuff that you can see is exportable in a report format, so that you can, a PDF format, so that you can fire it off around the organization to allow other people to take a look at that data. All right, so that's the KPI dashboard. That's the kind of process by iPass view of what's going on within the network. We also have strong demand from operators and some other kind of quite interesting companies who want to understand our hotspot data. So they actually want to understand kind of where our hotspots are, because they might want to understand where their users are and might not have accurate latitude and longitude information from the device. The device lat long is notoriously unreliable because it kind of depends what the device is doing, what state the device is in. It kind of depends also on the client implementation, which lat long it's looking at, and also you may not be able to retrieve lat long because you might be in a shopping mall or within an airport or within the bottom floors of a convention center, and that might be the exact place where you actually want to understand where your users are and how they're moving around within those venues. And that's especially true of some of our infrastructure operators that are coming to us in the kind of hospitality and kind of venue space, who want to understand, well, yeah, I can give these guys connectivity, but I also want to understand where they're congregating and where they're moving around to within a particular venue. So we can provide very, very precise hotspot location data for about 3 million of our hotspots out of the 61 million. By precise, I mean within a kind of 1.5 meter circle. And we generate that information as part of kind of operationalizing our Wi-Fi infrastructure, because we have to understand where hotspots are with a higher degree of precision, so that we can direct clients to actually connect to the correct hotspots when they need to access Wi-Fi connectivity. So we have that data as a byproduct, and we're starting to make this available to users, are starting to consume it in some really interesting and innovative ways to really understand user behavior and device behavior, and how and where people are congregating and how they're moving around within venues. And this is just from the hotspot side. So we're not saying anything about users or devices here. This is really saying, okay, if your device can see this hotspot, this is where this hotspot is. So chances are your device is really close to this hotspot. So actually, some of our customers who want to consume this are actually looking to reconcile what hotspots they can see from a device with what the device location is telling them, so that they can validate whether the device location is actually correct. So it's an interesting additional data point or dimension to understanding device location. Again, probably subject of a separate webinar, because the applications for this stuff are incredibly broad, and they're popping up every day. We're getting a tremendous amount of interest from people wanting to consume this data. But this is the verified hotspot data. It's available right now, and you can, if you want to get in touch with us, we can give you a sample of this data so you can see what it is, how we cover the world, and then talk to you about some apps for how you might want to consume this data. Yeah, as an example of, if you were operating Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, you might want to understand where hotspots are really precisely, or if you were an airline and you wanted to understand how people moved around within a terminal before they got on your aircraft, you could actually, by looking at their devices and looking at what hotspots they could see and cross-referencing against a map like this, you can actually understand how devices move around within a terminal and where people tend to congregate or visit before they get on your airline. That's just one example of how somebody may choose to consume this data. One thing to bear in mind is that the hotspot data is very granular, because we go down to BSSID, which is the MAC address of an individual hotspot. And we have to do that because a lot of SSIDs, network names, are duplicated across a zillion hotspots. If you think about Starbucks as an example, Starbucks free Wi-Fi is in a zillion different places. So if you want to look up the location of where you think a client is against Starbucks free Wi-Fi, it's not going to tell you a lot. It's probably going to tell you one of 15,000 locations, but that's not precise enough to be actionable. So we understand the really precise location of the actual physical hardware, because again, this is something that we need to understand as part of operationalizing our Wi-Fi network. All right, so that's the hotspot side data. So the device side data is also something that is an interesting data set. This is anonymized device data that we can make available to customers for their users. And again, it's actually very rich information, because it actually has a lot of information about the device and the location of the device, and also the connection speed and quality that the device is actually experiencing. So, again, if you're an MNO, an MVNO, or any kind of infrastructure operator, and you want to understand how, and you don't want to use our KPI dashboard, you can actually consume this data to actually build your own KPIs and dashboards, and to actually understand how your users are moving around and how your users are actually experiencing the service. This data set is actually, and there's a lot more value in this data set as the data set gets bigger, right? You get more and more users, and we're on something of a growth spurt right now around our user adoption. So kind of last October, we were about 180,000 users. As of March, we were up about 530,000 users. And I just was looking at the data for May, and the data from May is showing I can't tell you what that number is, because it's a company it's a company metric. It's part of our fundamentals, so I can't really talk about it. But suffice to say that this growth curve that you can see on the right is really rapidly accelerating as we onboard more and more MVNO and MNO customers. They're going to be bringing big tranches of users onto the platform, which is going to make this device data set all the more interesting, because it's going to give you a much broader overall picture of how users are actually experiencing Wi-Fi connectivity. All right, so that's the verified device data. So moving on, we talked briefly earlier on about location services APIs. This is a capability that we are building into our SDK implementation, and effectively, if you integrate Wi-Fi connectivity into your app, the next thing you have to do is kind of tell where users to go to actually access that connectivity, because it may not be in everywhere that they actually visit. So we're making available a bunch of tools to our developer partners to actually integrate what we know about hotspot footprint within their apps, and build their own apps to display maps so that users can figure out either where connectivity is where they are now, or what connectivity is going to be where they're going to. If they're just about to get on a plane to go somewhere, they want to know that they're going to have connectivity in the city that they arrive at. So these APIs allow developers to actually query our network to understand where footprint is, and then be able to display that in a sensible way to the users. So this is what, there's two APIs. One is a kind of an API that says, okay, tell me all the hotspots that you can see, iPass hotspots you can see within a defined area. And we do a whole bunch of kind of normalization around this data, because if you look at the graphic and the middle there, that's kind of a normalized and a simplified view of Sydney. Obviously, we couldn't show, what does it add up to there? Probably about 5,000 hotspots. We couldn't show 5,000 pins on this map, because it would just be all pins. You wouldn't actually be able to see Sydney. So we do some normalization and simplification of the data, so that we're making it easy for the developer to display this stuff. But then when you zoom down, as shown on the right, then you can see more detail around where specific coverage and specific access points are. And in fact, you can see on the chart on the right that in some cases we're displaying individual hotspots, and others we're displaying clusters still, because we still want to simplify the map presentation. So that's a defined area API where people can extract data to understand what's going on within a particular area. Or you can also say, okay, what's nearby? So this is more like once a user's kind of on the ground and is walking around, you can say, all right, what's nearby? What's near me right now as a user? So this pulls a lot more information. So this around the hotspot. So it's pulling information around precise street address and the type of venue, and also pictures of the venue, which a developer can present in the app to say, okay, if the building you're standing outside looks like this, there's iPass Wi-Fi within this building. So two levels of pretty sophisticated API there that actually present a lot of information to apps to allow users to actually consume the service. So that's the location services API. There's actually, let me just go back. There's actually, it didn't quite make it into this deck because it's not quite released yet. There's some other stuff that we're doing in this area, because our users have said to us, or developers have said to us, hey, these APIs are great, but we still have to kind of write this app to display all this stuff. Can you help us out here by providing an SDK so that we can generate all these maps and generate these venue lists and show the pictures and everything else? So we're actually going to be launching another SDK component, which allows the developer to take software snippets and code from us to allow them to build these apps, but have them fully skinnable within their apps, and then use the API to actually extract the data from our network and display it in their apps. I have a little sneak peek, some slides on this later on if we get time to take a look at it. But it's not quite out yet. It'll be in the next couple of 3 weeks. All right, so moving on. So general kind of updates around the product. We'll step through the various kind of functional areas of the product. So our portal, we're placing a lot of effort, and I think we talked about this in last quarter's webinar. We're on a bit of a tirade right now around security within iPass. So we're doing a lot of work around hardening all aspects of the service. So a lot of last quarter's efforts on the portal have been around hardening our portal infrastructure to make sure that we're protecting it from attack. Also, we've added Singapore dollars to multi-currency support. That's going to be rolling out in the next, before the end of Q2 in the next week or so. And that's for a specific OEM partner of ours that wants to actually bill their users in Singapore dollars. We're adding in PCI compliance to our platform, because we are for certain customers processing credit card transactions now, so we have to be PCI compliant. And the desktop clients support, we're adding 802.1x, so we can support passport networks. Not many of those out there right now. It's a low proportion of our footprint, but we are moving forward with that. There's a slight typo in this next bullet. We are working on the United integration. So that's coming out this quarter. We're also changing the way that client updates happen. Previously, you were able to defer the client update 45 times. Now we're changing that to 3. So a user can only defer the client update 3 times before we say, hey, you've got to update to the latest version. And I know I laugh about that, but that's a really serious security issue, right? We want to make sure that people are on the latest versions of our clients and our SDKs, because those are the ones that have got all the latest patches and all the all the latest tips and techniques that we're building into the solution to improve its security. And we're doing a bunch of stuff around profile upgrade improvements and custom kind of authentication and a couple of other bits and pieces. And the Mac implementation is exactly the same in terms of the stuff we fixed, apart from we're just tweaking something around a connectivity issue that we had with Aer Lingus, believe it or not. The upcoming updates for the mobile clients, Android support, all of the Android and iOS clients are going to get 802.1x support with TTLS PAP authentication. We're rolling out United support for all the clients. We're making speed test metric improvements to improve the accuracy of the speed tests within both clients, actually. And we're also bringing out the location services API for the iOS client over the next couple of weeks. It's already available within the Android client. And the Windows 10 Universal clients, that's the Win32 client, is going to get United integration pretty soon. The SDK components, they're picking up basically all the stuff that the client gets, because truth be told, our clients are all based on our SDK implementations anyway now. So as we update the clients, the SDK is updated. Actually, it happens the other way around. The SDK gets updated and then the client gets updated. But for all practical purposes, it all happens kind of all at the same time and everything comes out at the same time. So I think that's a very, very good thing. Okay, so just want to touch on iPass a little bit for a short while. So for those folks that are new to iPass, so you know, what we do as a company is provide connectivity that's invisible and it's unlimited and it's available everywhere for everybody on our network. And we've really strongly moved to an unlimited model for all of our services. And the idea is that, you know, we're really trying to improve productivity for our users and do it in a very, very secure way. We spent a tremendous amount of time and effort over the past quarter in really ruggedizing our solution. And because we've moved to an unlimited pricing model for our users and our partners and our enterprise customers, that means that the costs are extremely predictable. We have a tremendous amount of footprint, as we touched on earlier on. Steve will talk about this in a bit more detail next week. And you know, again, we're trying to make the services simple for either both IT admins to deploy and also users to consume. We're trying to make the services transparent and fire and forget as possible. Privacy and security is key to what we do. You're going to see this more and more in our messaging going forward. As the number of horror stories and kind of vulnerabilities and attacks seem to be escalating on free and open Wi-Fi, we're making sure that, you know, we provide a safe harbor for somebody that wants to use Wi-Fi in the public domain by providing a very, very secure Wi-Fi service that blocks and deflects all known attack vectors. We'll skip over this one in the interest of time, and in the interest of time we'll skip over this one. And you know, we're trusted by a lot of big customers. You know, this logo, classic logo slide here, but you know, you look at some of the people that base their business on us. It's really pretty impressive, some of the customers that we have. And this just represents the kind of enterprise customers. Obviously, we're working with a lot of global MNOs and a very broad range of regional MVNOs to enable Wi-Fi within their solution. So that's about it in terms of the slides that I wanted to go through. Let me just, before we perhaps go on and take a look at the stuff that we're going to be launching around the location services SDK over the next few weeks. Let's just have a look at the chat window and see whether any questions have come in. Tom, did we see any questions?
We don't have any as yet, Neil, but we can leave it open whilst you're going through the sneak peek. Okay,
all right, great, thank you. All right, so sneak peek. So this is the stuff that we just want to give you a heads up of what's coming along in the next few weeks or so. And this is really kind of cool because it allows a developer to build all the kind of Wi-Fi location maps within their app, but do it with a code base that they can actually get from iPass that we've already implemented on 500,000 clients. So there's two different modes that we can actually run it in. Previously in the slides that we talked about the kind of online data retrieval. But our customers have said, hey, we want to download offline maps because we may have users that are going to a city and they want to pull the maps so that they have the maps available when they get off the aircraft. So the new Location Services SDK includes that ability to pull and cache location data for the destination that the user is actually going. So that's very cool. Actually, it's a very cool capability. Moving on. So this is kind of broadly what it looks like. This may look a little bit similar to the actually, my mistake. This looks exactly the same as what I just showed you because this is the iPass branding. If I go to the next slide, this kind of shows you some of the options that you can do in terms of putting your own branding onto this app. So you can change everything pretty much. You can change how the user navigates with the back and forward buttons. You can change the pins shape and color. You can change the iconography. You can do quite a lot in terms of changing how the app actually looks, but also how the app actually behaves within your user experience, while still extracting all this really useful data from our platform. So this is broadly what we'll be able to offer in terms of an SDK capability for Hotspot Finder apps for developers that want to integrate into our stuff into their solution. And obviously you want to look at the offline stuff. What we're going to do is kind of going to have this ability to kind of basically draw a circle around a particular area that you may be interested in and then pull the map for that particular area and then have it cached and available on your device for when you actually show up in that area. Okay, so that was the sneak peek on the Location Services SDK. Any other questions come in, Tom? I've been banging on about that.
No, we still don't have anything.
Okay. All right. Well, great. I hope you all enjoyed the Q2 update. It was fun to present. I'm excited about all the new stuff that we're rolling out, especially the Verify stuff, because that's actually something that I'm working on right now. That's very interesting and exciting to me because it's opening up a whole new range of applications for iPass and different ways to work with our users and partners and customers. So I hope you have enjoyed this session and look forward to seeing all of you again in Q3 when we talk about all the cool stuff that we brought out in Q3. Thanks very much, everybody.